Hey guys, it's Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching. Want to do a quick trade preview for tomorrow. I'm not going to really review today. I think I did that effectively earlier. Um, but I want to cover a couple of things that are really important going into the day, and I want to try and get a little bit of extra sleep in the morning so I don't have to rush to get here. So I want everyone to be prepared. So first of all, a couple of things. There is a cluster on the chart, okay? And that cluster starts at about 2353, and it goes all the way up to 2366. Why is it a cluster? I'm going to show you why it's a cluster here. So let's get a blank sheet here real quick. Let me see if I can just pull it up off another computer. And then chart analysis. And so let's do a couple things. First of all, let's go to the daily, and work our way down, right? So on the daily, okay, you can see that we're on CL, which is why that looks very, very foobar. Let's fix that. There we go. On ES, we are clearly trending up. There is a trend line, and there's two trend lines, several trend lines that are important. First of all, from these 3 points right over here approximately, right, we have to get below and hold below. We will extend that to the right, right, and then we have a tighter trend line which goes roughly like this, right? And we are threatening to get below this trend line. What does it mean if we break the trend line? Absolutely nothing, not jack, okay? All it means is if we break that trend line is that we have the potential to come back and test a couple key areas. Those key areas are that 2269, which we're obviously not going to hit anytime soon, 2295, which we're obviously not going to hit anytime soon, and this shows very clearly how poorly auctioned we are between 2295, right, and to where now it's about approximately 2232. So between 2232 and 2295, we are poorly auctioned. It doesn't mean that we will automatically re-auction it. The market's under no obligation. You can see in the past we leave nice fat areas where it's unauctioned, and you can see we're kind of started this little, if you expand this a little bit on the day time frame, you can see that we are forming a wedge, okay? Personally, I think if that wedge gets broken to the upside, we are going to rocket towards 2380 area and then possibly 2400. If we break to the downside, I don't think we have that much downside, but the market will tell us what's going on. So it's important to remember the average range is 7 to 15 points in ES. Anything outside of that puts us really stretched. You saw when we got stretched past 15 points today that we had a very hard snapback. We have had a few days where we've exceeded that, but not too many. So first of all, in addition to all of this, notice, see this big bar that looked like it was breaking out? So see, as soon as we got underneath it, that's 2360 and a quarter. That's right where we had difficulty this evening, right? We've got to get back above and hold above 2360, and that puts us back in this chop zone, right? And so I'm writing this, let me grab my journal because I'm writing this as we speak. Hold on one second, because in order to write, I need my pen, and I do not have. A second, we're going over here. Okay, I don't have a pen, so I'm going to send myself an email. Okay, so we have to get back. We must hold above 2360. And in case y'all haven't figured this out, I'm a real trader. I do the coaching room to help others but mostly I do it to help myself. We have to get above 2360 and hold bigger pick for upside move. Next, we have to get above, right, and hold above 2369, right, which you'll notice last night is right where we pushed up against, followed by right. If not, below, you'll see that we are starting to form support between 2340 and 2318. Pretty wide area. That doesn't do us very much good as far as day trading goes. And I'm just going to generally note that we're in danger of breaking the uptrend line that goes all the way through starting back in December, that we are in danger of breaking it. Again, I'm not bearish, but if we do get underneath today's low and we hold underneath today's low, I will be concerned about a downside move and retesting that 2318. Unlikely for tomorrow because we're sitting at 2351, and it would be very hard for me to imagine us getting past anything past 2330, maybe 2325, unless there's some kind of disaster on the horizon that I'm not aware of, right? So next, let's take it down to a smaller time frame, 60 minutes, okay, and see what's going on there. On the 60-minute bar, what you will notice, okay, was today we had a trend line going. Again, I'm working only off the 24-hour here, but this is generally our uptrend line, and we broke it decisively, right? Again, if you'll notice the stretch from the swing high to swing low, we had intraday, we were at 2363, we moved down to 2340, 23 points of rotation. That's about as much stretch. Again, 7 to 15 points has been the average. We were way overstretched. We came and we came right to almost to the backside of this wick. We didn't quite touch it, but we got damn close, right? And we responded all the way back up. If you'll notice where we responded back up, same rule as I say every time. If I am a bear, I do not want this bar to recover more than 50% of that bar, and you'll see that we were unable to close on an hourly basis above 2355. So the next thing I'm going to note, right, is that holding above 2355 sets us to retest scene of crime from AM at 2360. Okay, so for tomorrow morning, if we're holding above 2355, I would expect us to come up and retest that 2358 to 2360 area. Okay, again, just making notes for myself, nothing dramatic, right? So now let's go to, and then also the other thing I'm going to note is as I showed you this morning, we have a general downtrend line that we've broken, and that's probably now accelerated a little bit, but this is still the main downtrend line that we're looking at. And my guess is if we look to the left, right, in general, let's say that we aren't going to go straight back up and we're going to re-auction. When we came back from our little dip the other day, we came all the way down to this. When we initially pushed up, right, we pushed up and people tried to reject the gap, and then they couldn't push any low. When they couldn't push lower, shorts were trapped, and we left this whole area poorly auctioned, right? So it wouldn't be very surprising to see 2335. Let me see if I have that on the chart for tomorrow. 2336 to 2334 key area that lines up on the hourly with re-auctioning this poorly auctioned area. So I'm going to add that to my notes, right? 2335 completes poorly auctioned area from hourly. Okay. Again, notice all that's telling me is where the market may or may not go, right? That's totally possible to hit 2335 if we open at 2351. Tomorrow, I'm going to look for responsive buyers in this area when we complete down. Conversely, if we get underneath, right, I would expect all this to get re-auctioned in a possible retest of 23.18, but certainly not tomorrow, right? So then let's keep moving through here. So now we have the short-term picture, right? What I also want to point out is the bigger term picture. If I can get above this 2363, 2365 area, okay, returning to the scene of the crime, if I look at this, right, we left everything from 2366 right up to about 2375, 74, all the way up to 2378. And then this little area, this whole thing is one big chunk, right? We left this all, see how that became a balance area? Right? And then another balance area, right? So if we can get above this 2366, I would expect a fairly quick push up towards 2374. Assuming 2366 holds on the backside test, then I would expect a push into 78.82. If that doesn't hold, then a retest of the all-time highs. But again, 78 to 82 is my immediate upside test. That was also a trap back in. You see how we had resistance here. We broke above, we trapped back in, we backside tested. This is the key resistance area above. If we get above it and hold, that would lead us to a breakout. There's not much resistance above 23.82. Okay, but in order for that to happen, okay, the first thing that has to happen is I have to get above and hold above this 2363 to 2366. And if you'll go back to the chart, as choppy as everything is in here, right? Here's the 2358 to 2360, representing the hourly. That's my white zone. If I get above, here's Monday's RTH high. I do not consider it a major resistance point. Normally I would, but there's just not a lot there. This area, this 63 to 65, very key. Okay, this is a key location. Failure to hold, breakout likely. Even though this is a double top, it may create an initial downside rotation. But if we get above this, right, I would expect a big push. And if we could get some negative space, those of you in the room know what I'm talking about, in a backside test, I would then expect a test to 72, 75, and eventually 77, 80. That's a 30-point stretch from where we are right now. It's unlikely that we'll get to the 80. I think the 72 to 75 is likely, or we just come up and consolidate again inside the top of balance area. And then if we gap the next day, if we gapped above the 66, I'd be very hesitant to short at all, right? Also, trend lines coming into the day, we did a great job reading those. We did a great job reading the exhaustion move. Tick divergence really helped today in terms of being able to read the chart, right? And you can see tonight we've started to roll back down. And if we get below initial support, 49.47, right? That sets us up for a retest of Monday's low. Holding below Monday's low opens this up for a test of 36 to 24. I would expect either consolidation down here or a backside test of Monday's low or a move back up into initial resistance, right? Or I would expect a move down to into 26.28, followed by a move to retest the lows of 20.25 down to 18. Either way, we'll have a very clear idea in the morning, right? And just like this morning, you can't ever guess the PA. Clearly, we're starting to roll to the downside, but buyers are in overall control. I'm not bearish on ES. A lot of damage has to be done before I would get bearish on ES. I just think the long side trade is generally easier. So that's my 2 cents. Tomorrow, what I'm looking for: rotation size, 10 points, tick divergence, into key locations, and I'm trying to get my work done early in the morning. And I expect first touch of zones, both long and short, to provide counter rotations, but longs more so than shorts, particularly once we get above the white zone, right? Underneath here, I still expect counter rotations down, but you can see the last piece I'm going to leave, right? If you got bearish in the afternoon, and then breaks, swing high and swing low, Really, really key, guys. I can't emphasize that enough. Again, you'll see once we got above the last swing high, the 50-60 back, this was a key trade for a push to the upside. And the break of IB high and the first 50-60 back, that will be all over that. I can't emphasize how important that trade is going to be to me. So let's see where they take it overnight. We're down 5 points. I will see everyone in the morning. Oh, I did want to show one more thing before I finish up. Where is my volume profile? Let's see if I have it here. There we go. Okay. The only thing that concerns me on the volume profile. So see how we have this big structure over here? We have to get above that, right? What is that structure? Again, it's all plugging in. We have to get above 2365, right? If you look to the left, there's not much holding us from pushing up until we get into this 2380 area, which is where I expect us to go from the day time frame. Underneath, we have this, which is again marked off, this 2345. There's a low volume node, but again, I don't think that 2351 is as strong. 49, 47 area, specifically closer to the 47 area is interesting. But if we get beyond this 47 from an RTH perspective, there's not much to help us. I know that we have little areas in here, and that volume profile aficionados will claim, oh, you know, there's stuff here. But I want to point something out. If we look back just a couple days ago, right? See how when we start to come down, see how there's nothing to the left? See how this is the one thing that stands out right here, that high volume node right here, and we bounce off of it, right? And then you'll see that there's another little tip that we didn't get tested, that we try to test below and we trap back in, right? Again, going with the idea of stretch. Now, look on the upside. See all the resistance that's there, right? And you'll notice we finally get up to this area right here. And we try to push beyond, but there's just nothing. It took so much energy to get up there that this stopped it. You can see how we built volume underneath this HVN over here. See how when we were here, there's just no pronounced HVN when we were down here, right? Once we came in on the day, right, and I would have said, look, above here we're bullish, right? You could have extended that to like right here, but above here we're bullish, right? And below here we're bearish. And you'll notice they had to work really hard, but once they closed it in, right? And then that shifted up here on the HVN, and I would have said, once we're above 2369, look to the left. There's really nothing to stop us. See that? There's not a brick wall. Like, see how this kind of turned into, even though we overshot it a little bit, this becomes a brick wall, right? See how we tag right in front of it, we tag right into it, and we keep responding out of it, right? It was finally only once that we covered it up, see, we finally auctioned it over, that we were able to push down through it, right? And we still found support and pushed back up. Now, I compare and contrast this, even though it complicates it. When I look at this, right, I know above here I could really push, right? But when I look below, the thing that concerns me is that there's really nothing below here to help me. Now, I'm going to contrast that with the 24-hour, okay? And let me remove this here, select all. Okay, and when I compare and contrast that to the 24-hour chart, again, you'll see we have this one little lip, but there's nothing that stands out. This is what's standing in my way on a 24-hour. Again, that 2360 area. That's what's standing in the way of me getting up and retesting first to this 73.75 and then to this 80 level right there, and then beyond that to that 83.87 is my next area, and then you'll see right behind that we stack up again at 91. See how there's actually areas where there's volume built up that can help, and it stands out. See how this stood out today? And that's how I was able to find where we're getting responsive buyers. But if we get below this, and this little node right here, that 35 node doesn't hold, this is pretty, again, pretty ugly underneath. And below 35, I wouldn't be all that eager just to dive in and try to catch a bottom, frankly, right? So again, I think if we get above here, we have pretty clear sailing into 75 and then up into 80. I think as long as we hold below, there's not much to. We have this LVN. Sometimes they hold, sometimes they don't. There's just not a lot beyond this little thing, and that's not a very big island, that 49, 47. It'll probably hold tonight, but it's not a very big island to hang your hat on. I certainly would much more rather have it be pronounced like this is, or like this is, or like this is, than just trying to guess in a general area. It does reverse out of there if you're an expert in volume profile. I'm sure you have a way of figuring it out, but I don't have a way of figuring that out, and I need a high win rate, so I can't just go out there and guess as to whether or not it's going to hold. I need to see evidence that it'll hold. So what I'm really hoping is that we can get above 61, and then again, going back to the chart, what I'm really hoping is this is that 58, 61 area. If we can get above, this is your next resistance area, 63, 65. That's from the RTH, okay? And if we can get above that, again, 72, 75, 77, 73. And you'll see on the chart, right, once we get below here, this is almost 20 down. But if we get underneath it, you'll notice I've left a lot of space on the zones underneath, and I'm going to need a witness to help me take a long down here, because, excuse me, I do not want to be a hero. Anyways, remember, this is for educational purposes only. I am opening the room back up to new members, and I am opening 1 or 2 slots for coaching, not many, for those who are interested in individual coaching. Anyways, my name is Simon. Have a good night. Remember, don't trade unless you know what the hell you're doing. Your money's too precious. It's too valuable. It's too hard to make. Take the time to learn the lessons and apply them properly. Do not blow yourself up. Maintain a proper journal. Process your emotions. You don't have to do a lot of work on your emotions. You don't have to fix the problem. Just be aware of what they are, right? And come to work every day properly prepared. Part of that means I need to get at least 6 hours sleep. So off I go. See y'all in the morning. I'll have this published shortly. Good night, guys.